I'm very fortunate because I got started earlier than a lot of people do. But my father retired in 1981 and he was living in California. And I don't remember, I never had the conversation with him about how long he had carried this desire. But his mother died of tuberculosis when he was about 3.5 years old. And so when he retired, he decided that he wanted to learn about his mother's family that he knew nothing about. He got in the car and he started to pursue his roots. Now, what to me was so interesting is he had no training. He'd never taken a class. He wasn't aware of any societies. He just had this desire in his heart to find out about his mother's family. He had no information. He had no papers. What he had from his mother were a few of her textbooks and her fountain pen. And I think he had one picture of her that was in like his a little child's Bible. So he stops at the family history library. He's traveling through the Midwest. He stops to see relatives. He didn't call ahead. He just had like addresses for people and he'd just like knock on the door and show up. My father does this first trip. He puts 12,000 miles on his car, and one of the places he comes is to visit me, who's living in Richmond, Virginia. And so we get in the car, and I take him, and we spend a day in Washington, D.C. at the National Archives. It's like Friday night, and I meet my husband and my parents in the pizza parlor, and my mother says, "We're moving to Richmond." And I go, "You're moving to Richmond?" So this shows you how passionate my father was, because not only did he had just retired, but they sell their house in California and buy a house in Richmond because he wanted to be able to go to the archives every day and didn't want to have to go 3,000 miles to get there. And so he would get up in the morning several times a month, get on the train, take the train to D.C., do his research, take the train and come home. So what happened was I saw my father's frustration. I wasn't interested in genealogy, but I had a career in the title insurance business, so I knew courthouses. So I started to take 1 week's vacation a year with my dad and go to one of these places where my family used to live, and I would go into the courthouse with him and help him find the documents. So by the time he died in 1988, I was hooked. So it started as my way to help him. And once I discovered what information was available, it was all over. Part of what makes me feel so strongly about NGS is there are these people that have this interest, and we want to help them make that a very efficient process. We want them to be able to know what they're going to look for before they leave their home. We want to tell them what records are available and how to research and have research plans so that it can be very effective. And so how this relates to my father is at this point in time, he's 65 years old. He lived to be 71. So he'd already had open heart surgery. He had health issues, and he had this passion to find out as quickly as he could. And he could have done it so much better if he'd known, and he didn't have the opportunity. So for my mother's 90th birthday, we gave her a digital picture frame, and my sisters and I put together the pictures we had. And then she said, when I was visiting her last year, she had a whole box of pictures, and would I put them into her frame? And so I took this box of pictures, and I go to Kinko's, and I'm going through my mother's life, which was wonderful, because where she lived, and her pictures as a little girl, and her pictures with her parents, and where she lived. And I get to the bottom, and here is this journal that my father kept on his very first genealogy trip. And I didn't even know it existed. That's what was so exciting. And so I have the benefit of knowing which relatives he stopped to see, which cemeteries he visited. And so it was really exciting to share that memory.